Nope, there we go.
Oh, it's right there.
Yes, yeah, that should be good.
I can sit in here in the corner. I don't need to be. Yeah, I will just sit right here so I can hear it.
Are there anything that I had to
All right. So we're here for the 2026 Mosville Township Fire EMS Protection Contract. So I distributed some documents for your review. Kind of the same thing here every year. So we got the actual contract. I got that from legal. Should the language, obviously you guys will review it because we did make some changes to the contract, the actual legal contract. Maybe 2 years ago, maybe. So the language is identical to the best of my knowledge. I just took last year to change the dates and change the numbers. So that should be reflected in that contract. But then normally when we spend most of our time there, is kind of this little transparency sheet here, this cover letter, that kind of deals with some of the numbers and where we get the numbers for the contract. That we go to calculation. So this is a little bit of a history lesson. So I think it was 2019, maybe 2018, Joe, you might remember, and Peggy, I think you were on board as well. I wasn't chief at the time, so I didn't kind of hear the calculation at that time. Tom, Kimberly, the board, and Jeff was involved, developed the calculation that we've been using up until maybe last year. What we did last year is we ended up taking out the overall budgetary number that we used. We took out the EMS reimbursement number. We took out the unspent budget number from the previous year. And then we're going to Jeff is here to talk about the safer grant, kind of what happened with that. And last year, I took the safer grant reimbursement out as well. We're going to talk about why that's not in the 6 contracts. So we took those in. So a slight change in the calculation to come up with a budget number, and then we go ahead and slam it into the 3-year rolling average, take the percentage and cross out the number. So relatively simplistic on it, just kind of taking the data, plugging it in, and spitting out the number. So that number is reflected here, reflected on the cover letter. I'll take any questions or you want any more explanation of that. The one thing is for 26, I'll mention a couple of things. The run load in the township went up a little bit, about 4.7%. We did spend more of the budget in 25, so we had less money to take out for 26 because we spent more of the budget in 25, and then our budget went up about $577,000. So those are some changes from what we experienced in the contract. It's always confusing because we're working on some 25 numbers and some 26 numbers, so it was a bit confusing. So those are some of the differences between the 25 and 26. And those numbers, a lot of them are reflected on that second page that I do that provides some of the historical, contracts from the past. So for comparison. So with that, oh, I did bring some runs. These are the 25 run numbers. I made one copy, but you're welcome to take a look at those as well. And the numbers from 26. The thing that's important to you folks is the township run numbers through March are up about 5.5%. So seeing an increase in 26 and the run in the township.
I have some general questions.
Yes, sir.
And then I'll take your, I want to hear, I guess it's a general question, and then that helps me kind of figure out how we get to the numbers. And, I guess my first general question would be, everything that we're charged for, and they come in very specific categories. You have them all listed exactly, accident with injury and accident without injury, all of these. For us, is everything billed the same rate, or do you have different rates for different things?
Well, the only rates we have are for EMS response. There's nothing for fire response. So the EMS rates are the same for city residents and township residents between the EMS rates.
Sometimes we don't know.
To be honest with you, we never know. The only time that I don't mean it this way, because that's the way it is. The only time we care about the township is we respond to everything the same, is if it's an illegal burn or it's an open burn, because the rules are different between the township and the city. That's only the really time when we even are aware of the fact that we're in the township is for open burning or illegal burning. So we don't even know.
Sorry.
And we've been providing this service for decades and decades and decades. The city, as far as the fire response goes, there's zero difference between the city. The same service.
Okay. Somewhere I have a list. I do my list, I don't know. It seems like the categories we have are fire runs.
It's fire, rescue, and EMS. Yeah, those are the three broad categories, yeah.
Now we have the MIH.
Correct.
Is that going to be the same?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all the same, right?
Yes, it's all the same. We don't charge the MIH runs. So actually, the only runs that get charged are transfers. So if we show up, Joe's got, you live in Noblesville or Noblesville Township, which you live in Township. We show up and you've got some type of issue, we don't transport you, you don't get any, there's no billing involved. We transport you and then that's what kicks in the billing cycle.
So it's based just like it is here in the city. Okay. On the MIH, those numbers are counted that are not charged.
They're counted as runs.
Total, the MIH runs would be in that total.
Yeah, we had, this will tell us how many MIH runs we have in the township.
What's MIH?
Mobile integrated healthcare, that's our mobile app program with NPD, you got Anisha, you guys are probably, Teresa's very good. So,
And I think to clarify too, when the chief's saying it's not charged to the person that has the run. There's still a cost of the run,
Sure.
still gets incurred.
sure,
There's a charge that originally was being charged to people, well, like if you came back, on a regular basis.
no, we don't have anything like that now. Some of that's applicable for like businesses and fire alarms. You know, if we go with fire alarm, but actually, we still don't charge them. We would never
That's
charge
another question, and
Yeah.
if that is in the township, is that still charged against the law?
them. We don't charge for that.
I mean, you don't count that as a run on.
That's the question she's asking. So she's saying one thing is do we charge business to the person or whatever. The other question is, when you're counting the runs in the township, do you count those runs? Because if you do, then the township is putting a portion of that cost, which is rational. That's what should happen.
We're not charging anybody other than transports on EMS. But if we go with a fire alarm in the township, yes, that is one of the runs that is in the total township number.
You just go around on the lawn and it just is malfunctioning.
Mm-hmm.
Does that go into our?
Yes.
Is it someone?
So to get back to your other
It
run,
should, I mean, yeah. It's the service that they're getting, you know what I mean? You're getting the service to the real alarms and the false alarms.
You got people in mind.
So that, if you got, but my question is, no one's addressing it. And I remember back in the old days, you have businesses and their alarms go off and you're paying attention and you guys do your job. And so I'm wondering how that trickles down to us and to you, right? In costs and so forth. And to our numbers, I'm trying to get to the bottom line of the numbers. And, like the other day, I saw a fire truck at a nursing home. I'm assuming you charge the nursing home. Yeah. You run over to the Hamilton County Judicial Building. They don't pay taxes. And you do that for free. Yeah, I mean.
well, yeah, they don't, I hate to say they do it for free, and that's a conceptual kind of a concept, and they don't pay, the property taxes like others do. Yes, we make those runs just like we make runs. So, before we lose it, I'm gonna get back to your MIH question. So we made 23 MIH runs in the township last year. So of your 469 runs, 23 of those were mobile app runs.
Okay, so that's your question.
Yeah, that's
The
it.
total.
Yeah, so of your 469, and I will say, after about 20 years, I went to the IMAC. On Friday, and I ordered class for the first time. I can't see, it's the mid-distance. I can't see this, I can see that. Finally, when I can't see the mid-distance, like that, all of that is blurry to me. The glass will be here in a couple of weeks. So,
You did go to the
what she said, they're going to be, I don't know what she calls them, triple something aggressive.
Oh, my God.
But anyway, so of this 469 runs we made in the township, 23 of those runs were local areas.
So in order to come up with this total, I need your.
That's where it came from.
That's where it
That's
comes.
yeah, so
Then,
runs in the
tell
township.
me which things were being charged for and what the charge is.
So for the charge is coming from the percentage, all the runs that we take, like 8,700 plus runs, all of those, we're taking the runs we made in the township, and then we're getting a percentage of our overall runs, what's the percentage we're making in the township, and that's what we are plugging against.
So we get over-
We're not doing arbitrary pricing, so we're not saying, oh, you had this kind of run, and that price is this many dollars. Yeah, this kind of run, that price is this many dollars. Yeah, this kind of run. Not doing that. What we're saying is, you have fire protection service by the Noblesville Fire Department, and at the same level of service as is provided for folks inside the city and outside the city, you're just getting the Noblesville Fire Department, and we're saying, whatever share of the activity of the Noblesville Fire Department that went to serve your territory that's outside the city, that you don't have a fire department for, we're saying that's the cost that you're paying for the Noblesville Fire Department.
I think I was on something, what I did now. That's scary. I think it was like $3,500 a month. The term rate based on the figures that we have.
We don't try to understand what's happening.
When you, take an EMS room and you, what do we call it? You no longer, collect. I'm confused on that because we're participating. Yeah, you go to the council and you say, we have this many write-offs.
The unpaid EMS debt.
Yeah, I shouldn't have been, I mean, either we get charged, customer gets, the patient gets charged, or the insurance company. Who doesn't pay and why do you not bill, I mean, how do you determine who's getting billed?
We need our EMS director for that, but I'll do the best I can to answer that question. So, insurance pays what we're going to pay, Medicare, Medicaid, or the insurance is going to pay, and then of course there's a patient responsibility. So we have a billing company that bills the patients for those unpaid liability and unpaid EMS debt. So, and they hound those people, I think, Jeff, over 7 years. I think what they do, I'll text the guy, I'm sure. So after 7 years, the billing company gives up, okay? So what the patients are not paying, that's what gets written off. That's unpaid.
So what he's saying, which I'm going a little bit more in detail here, he's saying, they don't just, hey, you didn't pay, we give up. They say, hey, you didn't pay, we're gonna go after you for 7 years, and if we can't get you after 7 years, then we'll say, hey, now that, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, can't keep going after them forever. So that's just it's a policy decision being made to say, 7 years seems like a reasonable amount of time to try to recover this money.
I get that part, but I don't understand that which entities have this that you're hiring, how they split that up between the three.
I don't think they
Township's bill versus the patient.
That's a slightly different thing, but I think you're getting on something that would potentially add a wrinkle here that will add some complexity to it, but I'll get to that in a second. That they're not kind of allocating it out to everybody, they're just saying, hey, this is not being paid, so it's being absorbed by the Noblesville Fire Department. So the fire department is just, they've incurred the cost and now they're not getting any money back. So back to the bigger notion of, hey, you just have the services of the Noblesville Fire Department, and you get full complete service, you get the same service that everybody gets, and as a consequence of these people not paying, some of their costs don't get reimbursed in the way that they should, and so consequently, some of your costs don't get reimbursed the way you should. It's showing up as a lower amount of EMS. It doesn't show up that it's basically, in essence, if this wasn't happening, this EMS reimbursement number would be higher. And so if it were higher, if there was nobody that ever had an uncollectible debt and it was all 100% reimbursed, that number would be higher, and you and Noblesville Fire Department would get the benefit of that.
We get part of that bill, we pay our bill.
No, you're not getting part of the bill.
With what?
Shouldn't see the patient.
Yeah, you're not getting the bill. Only
We're
the
not
patient.
getting the bill.
Right.
Only
Only the patient is getting the bill, and if they don't pay, then it becomes a cost to the Noblesville Fire Department, and you're getting, at least this year, 5.6% of the Noblesville Fire Department.
we don't get billed for EMS.
The patient does.
On here, so it gets picked up in the percent.
Right, because you're getting the service of the Noblesville Fire Department, and if those people pay, the reimbursement amount would go up, and you would get 5.6% of that.
Right. Okay, can we get the 5%, multiplied by the actual, budget spent this year?
Correct, that's the unspent portion out.
Which was a point that you raised in the past, and again, I don't remember the progress of this whole thing, but I mean,
I mean, my eyes, I feel the read from here, I think it's a lot of
Okay, thank you. And I can see that, that's.
I think I said it last week.
So I want to be able to, that we have a discussion today.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have some questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Teresa already said that we'll come back in May. So-
Yeah.
Yeah, I started this process in April. He sent me this email right after you guys picked up your minutes. And then we obviously
We shut it down.
Yeah, we shut it down and all that. So I knew we had time that you could get the information today, look it over, and then have your questions in May.
Another question.
Before I lose you, Chris, I'm going to go back and answer. So it is 7 years, and it's our building company that establishes that time. So at 7 years, that's when they choose to give up on trying to.
A lot of credit card companies do the same thing.
Have you ever figured out how much that costs you to get that? You probably just write it on.
So right now, yeah, you guys, I mean, I don't have a number, but, Oh, no, we paid in this building, it's our building company.
And we're not paying any more because we're chasing people for 7 years. And we would be paying them the same, that's just a policy that they put in place. Well, yeah, we don't say it here, yeah,
We pay people to run.
right. I'm assuming, I don't know, because of the way that invoices work, and they have the whole relationship. I have a feeling that the invoice does not say, oh, here's how much we're charging you for going after the people that haven't paid over the last 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We just have a service that is a full service, comprehensive service that is trying to collect payments from people. And they're doing the billing, they're collecting, and then part of their service, they built it in, and they say, well, if people don't pay right away, we'll still continue to try to collect from them.
And they have the best interest in going after those people because they pay us based on the percentage that they collect. So the more they collect, the more money they get, that's why they have the incentive to go after those people.
And so they decided, rightly or wrongly, and I don't think we have the capacity to sort that out here, or possibly even ever. I'm going to trust their judgment. They decided that after 7 years of unsuccessful pursuit, that at a certain point, they are saying it's not worth the cost anymore. So we're not going to keep pursuing that. That's it. We're spending money and getting nothing back. So they're making that, the question you're asking, they're making that judgment. They have decided that 7 years is their break-even point for when it's worth it. How long? Huh? Maybe they're wrong. Maybe they should only pursue for 3 years again. Maybe they should pursue for 4. I don't know that.
I have another question for you. When you, and say you sell a fire, how does that calculate the deduction to, the money goes back into the government, right?
Yeah, it
Counts
That
in.
would reduce the budget,
correct.
okay? So we get that reduction also.
Correct, and it shows up in their case, they are paying this, Fund 120 is going to go away for the fire department here fairly soon, but they're paying for most of their equipment that way out of Fund 114. So when they sell a fire truck and they get a trading value or whatever for it, that gets factored into the cost of the next piece of equipment. So that's how it's lowering their budget. We say, oh, man, I don't even know the price of fire trucks right now, but is it 500 now? Is it higher?
Usually it's about 1.1 million.
Okay.
Fire trucks.
So an example would be, we'll just use a simple number. If they were buying a new engine for 1 million, and they traded in an old engine and got 200,000 out of it, what would show up in Fund 114 is a budget for $800,000 that we would be paying off over a 5-year period. So that's how you get the benefit. They all get the benefit of that trade. It just ends up lowering the amount that they need to pay out of Fund 114.
But we actually don't, we normally pay on, I can't remember last time we sold a truck. They're just at 200,000, like 5,000, there's not really much more.
But if they weren't getting that,
But if we were, the process is just change.
So we get benefit of that 2%.
You get the benefit of the lower amount.
right, Fund 114 would be higher but for that fact. And I'm guessing one of the things they probably do, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but is when they keep one of the older trucks, even though they bought a new one, they can do a number of things. It's a backup, they have a certain notion of like, hey, we have to have some backup vehicles in case we have a problem with one of the frontline engines and it has to be repaired. And then I'm assuming at a certain point, once these things get old enough, they might even potentially scavenge some parts off of it or something like that that helps them.
Actually, that's how they would up the trucks and keep the parts trucks. Right. Keep it out.
And so that ends up then lowering, when you do that, again, deeper, but that ends up lowering how much they spend out of one. And so they say, oh, I now can take this off this old truck, so I don't have to buy that new part. My 101 spending will go down, and that will show up in their unspent budget. So you're getting anything like that happens, they're getting the benefit, and anytime they're getting the benefit, you're getting the benefit, because you're getting 5.6% of whatever that savings is.
Right. Okay.
Did you mention
I
brakes?
was trying to, take the great way
Well, you did bring back some question about brakes. You were getting ready to ask a question about brakes.
About what?
Brakes?
Right, well, yeah, I'm assuming that's.
Yeah, we'll talk about the safety brake when we get to that point. So we just got 2026, we just got a $50,000 NIH grant that is going to pay for some stuff that we had budgeted in 2026. So I've already made myself a note for the 27 contract to deduct that $50,000 grant from the contract.
That's for.
And some of the grants we get, some, we don't, it's not like we get some grants, but some of the grants actually benefit the budget, and some don't, some are just something that's not budgeted, it's extra. But this particular grant is important to you folks, because it is directly going to be a budgetary savings, because it's going to pay for software we have budgeted for new people. So that would be something we can plan for. You'll see that, you'll see that on the 2027 contract.
Depending on how we account for it.
Depending on how we so. Y'all you may see savings in 101 or something like that.
Yeah, it'll either show up in unspent budget or as a reimbursement. One of the two ways. It depends how the grant gets structured.
It's pretty exciting, we can take and balance it out to something that we both feel with that care percentage. I know, for me personally, speaking to me, digging in and dividing it out into minutia would just be too much. But I do want to comfort them with understanding exactly how we do it. And to have that comfort that maybe we gave a little there, or we get a little here.
Well, you brought up some good points over the last couple of years that have been integrated into this that we think do make it more accurate, or more fair, or whatever word you is operable.
We all appreciate that. But they're all, we get the same comments you do. They find us, we try not to let them know who we are. But, it's taxpayer money, and we can't answer the question and shame on us. And it's very complicated. The whole system is very complicated as far as what you provide.
But yeah, I think though, again, I'm just jumping on that, and I'm trying to imagine some of the questions you might have gotten asked that would lead to you asking the questions that you asked. And I think, to me, the clearest, most accurate explanation of any of it is the cost represents, we're getting the full 100% service of Nolensville Fire Department. That's what we're getting. And what that represents, again, from year to year, I fluctuate a little bit, but it represents about 5 to 6% of all the work that they do in a year ends up serving our township that is outside of their tax district. And so that's what we're paying for. We're getting full 100% Noblesville Fire Department service for the parts of their service district that are outside the tax district. And, as opposed to getting the whole notion of, oh, it costs this much for this kind of run and this much for this kind of run. Because we don't, I can see people asking that question, how much do they charge us for this kind of run? And the answer would be, they don't charge you for that kind of run. They just charge you for a share of their full, complete level of service, no distinguishments, they don't start off on, oh, we're heading outside the township. Let's see what our pricing is for that.
I think that is really well that.
Yeah.
Really, I think the flex that has something with our department, we will do. We don't have to buy our trucks, we don't have to give all those things, you don't have to put it all program. You have to do the job, explain it, make sure you're close to the company. I understand that.
I'm just like, hey, when you had a fire run the other day, and they're trying stuff, oh my goodness, it must have been. Stuff, I'm going, we are so fortunate. We are so fortunate.
But we're going to go with
Definitely check that out. I have multiple people say that.
And the question of the long-term parents,
Say that again.
while the state legislature would like to dissolve.
Oh, I see.
And I just wonder how that would work for you guys. What's the bottom line being? I mean, you're going to collect from somebody in the township. I assume that directly goes to you guys.
I'll tell you, and you may not even know this, because we haven't talked about it really, because I think it's just way out there, and it has, unless the mayor's office has brought it up to you, I never brought this up to you. Part of the discussion this last second, when we were talking about this whole redesign of municipal finance, was to, in essence, eliminate city fire departments and say, it's all a county fire department. So that's how it would work, but I don't think they're anywhere close to that in our legislation.
There's a lot more detail with that.
But in that case, the county fire department would be serving everybody in the county, and there wouldn't be these agreements between cities and townships for their areas that are outside the city, and so on and so forth. It's just, we're now paying for the county fire department.
I don't think the county just take that on. But, I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's Right, no,
Yeah, it's not like a next year thing or a 2-year thing.
That's not bad. And we get the advantage of your location. Yes. The township. Yeah, we get that.
Speaking of that, I think like I reported on this, I think, probably last year for sure, maybe before, but we're going to add an aid station. So we're closer than we've ever been. We're really close to securing the lane that we want to really good location out on Greenfield Avenue. Right next to Good Gardens, across from the transfer station, across from the Waterman Farms. We kind of have a response desert out there. So tough for us to get to Waterman Farms. It's in between 73th District and 77th District. So we're going to 78 there. Tentatively, we're talking about design 27, construction 28, and completion 29. Of course, that's now. I suspect that time frame will change. But most of that corresponds with the potential work on State Road 37, maybe late in 23, which would have an impact on South District 73. So even, since you mentioned the locations, I just wanted to say we're going to add an aid station here soon that's really going to help our response system. And then one of the other things you may have seen was our insurance services office over ISO rating dropped from a 3 to a 2, with 1 is the best, and it goes from a scale of 10 to 1, and we went from a 3 to a 2, which is a big deal. And it does specifically or directly impact homeowners and business insurance rates. I don't think it does a lot in Indiana, maybe more pride than anything to go from a 3 to a 2, but it does kind of address our ability to primary risk fire suppression only, nothing else, no rescue or anything else. But anyway, I just mentioned that in your sake, we improved over the course of the last 7 or 8 years since we were having really last in that particular reading. This station is 78, helped tremendously even with that rating as well. They come back in 5, 6, 7 years, we got that station built, staffed appropriately.
And maybe in the age of AI, you might be able to get to the point where there would be an analysis that could be done that would say, this is how much everybody in the Noblesville Fire District cumulative saved on their property and casualty insurance as a result of that. And then you would factor that in and say, hey, this may be expensive, this may seem expensive, but one of the reasons it's expensive is you're trying to provide a certain high level of service. We don't have that. Saving this right now.
It's kind of like the total conversation.
Right.
Thank you, Robert.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
This is not concerned that, but concerned you can and run through that particular category.
Okay, so Jeff's going to be able to answer that, but it does have its own tax levy. So we're talking about House
114. Okay. So here's, in essence, let me just explain the fund, and then we'll see if that gets changed with your question, and you can just ask more clarifying questions. It is an established structure in municipal finance law that allows communities to designate a portion of their overall property tax rate. Since you guys don't have fire service, you don't have it, but for a city, we can take a portion of our tax rate. Happens to be about 2.7 cents right now is the portion of the overall city tax rate that goes to that. And it is with that revenue, which unfortunately I don't have memorized in the top of my head right now how much that fund generates a year, but it's with that revenue that we then creates a revenue stream that you can use to either purchase directly or finance capital equipment for fire services. And so that's what we do. And so there's a number of things that we use that for, but the simplest is to spend the heavy rolling stock, so on and so forth, the ambulances, the fire engines, and so on and so forth. And so we say, hey, this portion of our tax rate is coming in and we can use it. It gives us an amount of financial capacity that we can say, with this amount of money, we can either purchase or borrow money to purchase this many ambulances or fire engines or other kinds of heavy equipment that a fire department would use. And so that's basically where that number comes from. And I guess I'm just looking at it. It probably generates somewhere in the, because we usually are using most of it since I'm looking here. If that was your budget or not, it probably means it's generating about $1 million a year, that tax rate is generating. Again, I have to look to see exactly, but if we budgeted $1 million, it's probably generating.
Typically, we're buying fire apparatus. We did have to replace it with SCBA's in 25, which is like $1.5 million in biggest fix. We've been 10 to 15 years to those. We just went through that process. But we generally will finance for 5 years our fire trucks and ambulances and so forth, utilizing Fund 114 to pay those lease payments.
And one thing we don't do, I mean, again, I'm just open and transparent with you, and the reason we don't do it is because it's a lot of work to do, and it doesn't add any kind of financial value to us, but we don't have a list that's maintained actively all the time that says, I could take that 979246 and say, this is how much is going to pay for this engine. This is how much is going to pay for this ambulance. This is how much it's just aggregated all. We have a whole list of equipment. We went out and we said, we're getting this equipment, we're borrowing this much money for it, and we're making the payments back over this 5-year period. But we don't, again, somebody might think, well, show me how much of that is going to each piece of equipment you have. That would take a lot of time to do. So I'm trying to head off that question if you want to
I just know that I can only spend as much money on fire trucks, at least payments while I'm basing how much money.
So, well, I knew that you could not buy a car.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bunch of this represents, basically, annual payments on a loan that is used to finance these things. And
There's like
we've kept things kind of simple, but there's reasons to do it. But in essence, right now, we don't have variable borrowing periods. We just always do 5 years. That's basically what we do. And it just, so a lot of what this money is going for is it's 1/5 of the cost of a whole bunch of different things.
Well, what I'd like to do is probably just look it over.
And then any more questions can come up.
But we got one more time. It's a bad news.
Okay.
All right, so I didn't print this, I need to finish it, Jeff. So I'll take the first crack and Jeff will take over. So hold the sheet here, which is kind of like it's the cover letter of it. I can call transparency sheet, show overall. And we'll compare that to last year's. Hopefully your classes work.
And I did try to print this, but I had to print it myself.
And
And we could put it up on the same.
Yeah,
We can't. We're getting trained on that tomorrow.
tomorrow, okay, so we'll come back. All right, so basically what you're gonna see on this that's different is we've got the EMS reimbursement, there's a safer grant reimbursement, then there's the unspent budget. So what's missing from 25 is the safer grant reimbursement. So when we were going through this process last year, I'm pulling data from our budgeting software, and I gave you credit like $1.2 million, or 1.3, I think, million for the safer grant reimbursement. What I didn't know, and what I discovered through Jeff, and I think Mike, the financial consultant discovered that safer grant reimbursement was already embedded in the unspent budget. Well, I didn't know that. I'm just, that's what we talked about, and plugging numbers in. They discovered it just a few days after this. I let Teresa know, like in May of last year, how do you want to do this? Because, that you got double credit for the safer grant reimbursement. So the bad news is that's,
I got the number right here.
$71,812. We've got the emails here going through all that.
Do you want me to copy this?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I have it here as well. But when we discovered that, we sent it to Teresa, and Jeff offered two options. Hey, you can deal with it now or deal with it later. And Teresa said, hey, I'll address it in the summer and we can deal with it this year. So we're here letting you know that we undercharged almost $72,000 because you got double credit for
Not
that.
more than that.
No, it's 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, so you-
Not 2 years, and then it's 3 years.
Yeah, we're almost finished. So matter of fact, we'll be done with that in the summer of 2026. So we started in 23. So in 27, there will be some safer grant reimbursement embedded in the unspent budget. And then in 28, that will go.
You'll always get full credit for it because in essence, basically what happened, I'm getting too deep into this, but I think it's helpful so that you don't have these questions later, why it works differently than the EMS reimbursement. In this case, they have a budget for all of their staff and so on and so forth, but a portion of their staff costs for a few positions is paid for by the safer grant. So the way we handle that one, I'll get to the EMS reimbursement in a second. The way we handle that one in our accounting system is we actually, when it's time to pay those people, they get a portion of their pay covered by the safer grant, we actually charge that cost directly to a different fund. I don't care what the fund numbers are, it happens to be Fund 625, so it's not on this sheet, but we say, this cost for these people gets charged to 625 instead of their 101 budget. And so that's what results in their unspent budget amount being higher. Every dollar that we charge over the 625 doesn't get charged at 101 and causes their unspent budget amount to go up by that amount. And so that's why it was captured in these numbers in the unspent budget amount. But then the chief, putting this thing together, he treated the safer grant money coming in like the EMS reimbursement, so he put that money on here too, but that money goes into Fund 625. Right, it doesn't go into 101. So in essence, he counted the savings twice because he counted the fact that he didn't charge his budget by $1.3 million, and then he said, oh, hey, we're getting $1.3 million back from the federal government. I'll give them credit for the $1.3 million again. I'm not going to report And the reason why he might have done that, so that's how I got done. The reason why he might have done that is because for the EMS reimbursement, we do it a different way. So that's kind of the grant happens differently. In that case, the EMS reimbursement, just so this is tracking now to remember it all, but for the EMS reimbursement, for those costs, that does get charged against his 101 budget. So those costs get incurred whatever EMS things are happening, that cost is occurring, it's hitting the 101 budget, it's not dropping down to unspent, it's just getting incurred, and then the city's getting money back from that reimbursement back into the general fund, so it's lowering our city's net cost, but it's not lowering his expenditures out of his budget. But now by putting that on there, you get credit for the city getting that money back, which is I think that you pointed out a couple, cycles ago. So in this case, you have these two things that are essentially the same thing, but because of the way we account for them being different, they have to be addressed in this analysis differently, so that's why you see the EMS reimbursement show up in here, but not the safer grant reimbursement show up on here.
So when the safer grant goes away in 2028,
Right.
are they going to see a big spike in?
Well, yeah, because the unspent budget amount, I don't know if it's a big spike, but the unspent budget amount is going to be smaller. I mean, most of the pay for 15 positions, is that right? I have to go back, I don't know.
That is the salary.
Right, but there's still a few things that we pay these people that are not eligible for safer grants, so it's maybe 90 or 95% of what these 15 people get paid, and so yes, but you'll have something going the other direction too, and unfortunately, I don't know what that is, I don't know how much it is for those 15 people, but you're gonna have something falling off soon, and I don't have this memorized, I should have brought my computer, but this, Fund 202 is gonna drop off pretty soon too, because that bond is, I think, paid off.
Is that the public safety one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get down the back of your head. As you go.
And then,
I just remember stuff.
and then 120.
What do you think that might be?
120.
120 is gonna roll off, and 202, I think that's, not, 202 is not the public safety one, it's like,
Oh,
seven.
5, 6, or 7, or just.
5 and 6, okay, that's what it is.
5 or
5 and 6, I think.
Well, that doesn't make sense specifically.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't have this memorized.
So those will come off at some point, which is good.
Soon, but I think like maybe next year.
But then we're gonna
I
get a station.
was just saying that.
So the good news is, at least those things are rolling off, even though we're gonna build a new station and, a couple of years. So, and, hire people for that. So,
Is it 71,000 in this 125?
it is not. I left it completely separate until we were able to explain it.
Now we said, here's the unvarnished number, and then said, this is the adjustment that should have been included in last year's amount, wasn't, and so now.
So, well, however we want to do it. And the one thing about this document here that I did, is this is just a historical document, I did correct 2025 to show what it should have been. So as we continue to track year after year, it's accurate. So it's gonna be different, the sheet you got last year will be different because I had the wrong number because I credited you with an extra $1.3 million. So I just wanted to make sure you understand this is correct, so that we actually have the correct historical data.
And I would make a recommendation to you on how to do this, but again, it's your thing, you can account for if I do things this way on my side. I think it will be easier and clearer and less confusing for everybody in the long run if you make the 71,000, whatever, 800, 100, whatever it is, $812 payment as a separate payment, so that you can see it in your records. So you go, oh yeah, this is the adjustment payment. You don't have to do that.
So.
I just think I would do that if I were you guys.
Just probably with the fire contract, right?
It is.
Just saying that.
Yeah.
Right, we have June and December payments, and then June, we have the 71.
Right, that's what I'm just saying, I would do it if I were you for my own sake, so that I wasn't confused later. I would pay it, that's what, I do stuff like that myself too, when we have to suggest payments on things. I highlight it so that when I look back at my numbers, I go, oh, that's what that was.
And that's the reason I didn't want to target any of this to confuse it, so that you can handle how they.
I thought that's what your email had said.
Yeah.
Because somebody might come back and look at this and go, hey, we paid more than that, what happened? And, but if you make it as a separate payment, you can look in your system and go, oh, that was the adjustment.
Like some kind of notification on there.
Yeah, I have all the fire chief's emails from where it was.
Yeah. Jeff discovered it pretty quickly after approximately, almost immediately, it was like Teresa, like, this is not going to be the best news I can do. Because the contract is down, your run load, a lot of things work in your favor last year. Your run load was down, some things were down, and then obviously we didn't double credit for.
Yeah, that was-
Right, so last year was down.
You discovered?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't figured it out.
Well, you discovered, like, wow, you guys were working on.
Right, we were working on something and Royer said, hey, this number doesn't match this number. And I go, oh, let me figure out what's going on. And I go, oh, what happens?
So blame him, I was trying to look you guys up.
for, usually I use it for the.
Oh,
That's what it says.
You want?
Yeah.
It's the, that should be, he's a great guy.
He is a great guy.
It's 5.57% of the $1.3 million that I gave you dual credit for. That's what it is.
Was, yeah. The-
That's pretty good for you.
Yeah, hey, that's a definite. So, he's the one that gets the money.
Because then I can't explain things online.
Well,
So sorry about that, I didn't know that it was embedded in that, and, you know, the fund is 60.
Well, it was a new thing, that was the, it was new to the thing, and so he's a good, conscientious person, didn't really realize this quirky accounting nuance, and we just didn't realize it. So, I mean, I will say that's the blame that we can take on our side, we just didn't realize there was a problem until it was too late.
We didn't know what we did.
Right.
are they any more questions?
I have a question kind of off of this. We've had a couple different situations where, just recently we had, it was a mom and her daughter, she was 15, she was pregnant, was refusing to go to the doctor to verify that. Manisha was involved, Sean, our case was involved. We called EMS to see if they could transport her to a hospital because, mom was drug addict, she was also abusing drugs, she said. But when we called, and I know, and I think you know, we've talked about this before, but there were about 6 guys that showed up. If we call and say, here's some drugs, or is it just, I'm sure there's protocols and I'm sure there's reasons behind it, but at this point, we were dealing with a girl who was living in a shed with her mom and is not having the best experiences with men. And we just didn't think about it at the time, but then you've got 6 guys coming in. And like I said, Raisha was there, Shauna was there. And obviously we're not qualified to say, we need 2 of you. But is there anything, or is it just what it is? It's just protocol and that's that?
Well, I'll say that the answer is probably like, for example, say maybe more complex than it should be. So the CAD system or the dispatching software works on a couple of premises. The first one is you get the closest apparatus, and then you get the most appropriate apparatus, and then you get a transport apparatus. Kind of in that order. So they'll send whatever's closest to get the aid or quickest. In the CAD, that's just the way the CAD thinks. So that's the way it's kind of designed. But like I said, then you get the most appropriate. And sometimes those are, you can capture 2 of those with one vehicle. Most of the time, it's going to take 2 vehicles to capture the closest, most appropriate, and transport you. So that's why you have 6 people. You have probably 4 guys on the engine and 2 guys on the ambulance. Okay?
I was assuming the system was figured out in the church.
Yeah. So that's how you have 6 people, is because of the way the CAD is, it's inherently designed that way. The other reason is they're calling county communications. They're taking somebody there to get the information, and then it's the county that's dispatching us. So we're getting dispatched based on the information the county has received, how they understood and inputted that to get the units that we get. So I guess to answer your question, it's probably going to be difficult to get only 2 people to show up. And that conversation would be between the caller and dispatch. Generally, the fire departments just get sent based on the information the dispatch is receiving and what they're plugging into the CAD. So our people may have had some of that information. They're dispatching an engine in an ambulance, and so we're sending an engine in.
Right.
But one thing that could have been potentially helpful in that particular case had somebody on the back of the street that said, hey, we only need a couple guys back. You know, that's kind of an indirect way to handle that maybe that could, actually, some, maybe my issue would be like, hey, we only need a couple guys to walk back in the backyard or anything. But it's probably going to be difficult to alter that response. Because it's kind of been, I'm going to answer the question and say, that would have had to be dealt with at the county level before we got this.
And I'm gonna presume you're making a connection you might not be making, but let me just talk about how that then impacts what you have to pay in this agreement. And basically, you know where that address was? If it was in the city, if it was inside the city limits, it didn't impact the cost here at all. Even though you guys made the call.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking, oh gosh, hey, there's all these folks coming out, and maybe that's impacting our cost for the township, and we didn't need that much service.
Well, right, and I was
You
thinking,
were dealing with each
With the-
person.
right, I was dealing more with the fact that, and it's happened a couple times where we have, you just need a couple, and you guys come rolling up, we're not gonna interview, because like I said, we don't know your protocols, so we're not gonna run out and say, hey, we don't need all of them.
So I got a similar story in similar ways. So, my family, we went over to the UK as you got racing. So I didn't know that. Yeah, no. So I'm over in London. Our neighbor calls us at 3 in the morning, which is by the time we're there, says, hey, all your slow walkers are off the house. Living everywhere. It only happens then.
Right.
So I called, I actually called dispatch and say, she didn't figure out what was going on and so forth. Well, I need to make a change. So I called dispatch and said, hey, this is the house, this is who I am, I just need somebody to go over and walk the house. I just need to send over one inch of time. I get two inches, and that's me, the fire chief, telling me this is all I need. But that's crazy. That's not what the cat produced. And that's dispatch sit. She called back and said, you're like 3 farms. So this is very similar when you're talking about the communities, which is really challenging because we intimidated this forward world I showed so many, but it's a similar situation and even I couldn't control what I see in my own house.
Well, and maybe next time we can just say, can we only have a couple of people, this is our situation.
Sure.
Okay, so we don't typically, like, interfere because we don't.
Sounds like
And
the,
not right now. I don't encourage you to follow the communications around what it was to give them as much information as you can, and we understand this in the world in some cases. But if we can only have a couple of folks who interact with patients or something, I would share all that information and hopefully it's effective, especially if my niece was involved. That's something that
Yeah, I don't know what, I don't know who, they made that call, in my office, and then I saw a fire truck roll up, and I saw ambulance, and I see me right here. And then, yeah, I see it, and then we, so, yeah, I think I should make that call, but I don't know if it was to make Dennis or just.
Yeah, probably, generally, always get the trucks dispatched, always has to go through.
Yeah.
All that. So, you know, like, you should just look at the boards.
Yeah, and they actually recognize trustees that prevailed, but yeah, wow, yeah. They invited all of us, and I have some recognition plaque, but Aisha won social worker of the year. Yeah, James with Hamilton, I don't know, but he does a lot for us, and he's done a lot for us as the schools. He won, something of the year. I know, it's hard to look. So, there's a prevail. Yeah, and so recognizing all the partners, so, cool. Yeah, and then I thought,
Or you just.
to say something that's should have been, is either first teachers or first, I think it's first Christians. Anyway, one of the churches here in Noblesville also won an award for maybe just their volunteer or social service part. They gather clothes for kids that are in domestic violence situations. Yeah, so I would love that to recognize.
We don't allow, say, parents in
I'm not the best person to answer that, but I don't think it's out of the question. I think that I'm pretty sure that there are situations where that's the right in front. I think a lot of it has to do with age. Well, I don't think it's out of the question. I think there's some criteria, so I'm definitely going to say that there's no way that happens. It's in the best interest of the patient to have all of that back, or all of that back.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, it's probably very situations, very.
So that's a good
Yeah.
But that means it's not like there's a rule, it's the judgment of the professionals on the site that they're going, hey, this patient needs this person.
Very situational, very much the decision of the paramedic and the company officer.
One last question. Okay, so I got this in my head. Every time you guys go into the town, doesn't matter what you're going for. Something that you gotta
Make
call.
somebody call for service.
What?
A call for service, yeah.
Yeah, we go on we go into the total number.
Yeah.
But then you said.
Only if the end point though, only if the end point says that. I don't think, if they just again, I'm getting a little, they just have to travel through the township to get to an end point that's not in the township. Like, it might be something, like, you're not getting, that's not, you're talking about. Yeah, the destination has to be.
You know, there are specs and townships.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. So you go to that and say it's.
I know.
You go to that and that's in the township. You get charged, you get a number of run for that.
Yeah, I mean, if we're making a run and it's in the township, it's going to be in that 460.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you say, we never charge you for doing that.
No. We charge the patient gets an EMS charge if we transfer. But we're only, the 469 that's received for the runs is for the runs. So that's going to be a percentage of our runs that are going to be in the township. So I hate to say you're getting charged for it, but it is going to be a run against the township.
So we are.
Whether we transport or not, the charge is going to be to the patient if we transport.
And then what about fire or the alarms?
Yeah, that would be a run as well.
But we run as well, if we don't charge them as a free.
Right. Yeah, we don't charge anything on the fire side. Just EMS transports, something we have.
Okay, and what else would be simple? Is there anything else for you? Service, but we don't actually charge the business or the school or the nursing home or the.
We don't have any fee structure for runs other than EMS transports. Now, you may have seen, it's been in the news relatively recently, Westfield, Carmel, they charge nursing homes for kind of repeat offenders. Millisville doesn't do that. Fishers, we may be the only fire department in the Big Four that doesn't have a charge to the nursing home or an extended care facility for maybe multiple ones. Again, like every fire department in the world, our top generators are extended care facilities.
And based on the way we currently allocate this cost, if that started happening, then yes, you would get some of that revenue. Yeah, I think it would lower our net cost, yeah, and you would get some benefit from it. If we
Well, we don't have, to be honest, we've looked at the numbers, and we don't think we're having that problem, like the other fire departments are suggesting.
I'm gonna take a shot here, this might not be helpful, but hopefully it'll be helpful. The township's not really a client or a customer of the Millisville Fire Department, like people are. You're an equity partner in a business that loses money, is basically what you are. You are kind of a 5.6% owner in a business that loses money, and that's how you end up getting charged. We're not looking at you as a client, we're looking at you as a partner in the business. You own 5.6% equity in the business, and the business just sucks.
And that's what
Right.
I did that.
EMS reimbursement, we don't call it EMS revenue, because being risky is not a revenue. I hate to say we're losing money. We are not making enough money to sustain the service, that's for sure. We are simply serving the constituents. Yeah, it's just part of it. We are a world of expensive piece of this.
Is there any way we could prepare a couple of hits coming year? And we're talking on spaces going
Yeah, but things dropping off will help you because the cost of the fire department will go down, and since you're a 5.6% equity partner, your cost will go down.
So is there any way that we can get an estimate on that, maybe earlier?
Yeah, we can. Well, I think all these processes involved, I will say this again, I'm expanding a little bit. We also inside the city are getting better at a bunch of things and a little bit more sophisticated in a bunch of things. So yes, I'm gonna have to take it up here, but I very much can go and look at for Fund 202 and 120 and say, hey, here's some of these costs that are going to go down and when they're going to go down. You know, I think that is no information.
Fund 101 will be challenging, because we have a union contract, we have negotiated agreements that can significantly impact the form. And we don't know those numbers until, generally after the budget cycle, we find out some of that information. As a matter of fact, we're waiting on numbers to produce this, which is a result of the 2026 contract, we were waiting for some numbers to get that sort of budget. So that one would be a little bit more difficult.
Here's one thing, I'm not gonna pledge it, but one thing that is doable, but it's also, how do I want to say this? It can sometimes cause more problems than it helps, but in theory, we have enough information to give you, like we do for ourselves, not only, here's what your cost is, because we do this in arrears. We can project out like 5 years what we think it will be, but here's the challenge. I think that potentially creates some problems. A lot of times what happens when you have the initial group of people that understands it all, they get into it, they understand it's a collaborative relationship, and this projection is just an estimate, and it's not a commitment, and so on and so forth. But then at a certain point, you got to think past, us folks won't be sitting at this table and then they'll start going like, oh, you said that 3 years from now it would cost this, and now you're saying something different. I'm a little worried about that, because the answer will be, hey, these were just estimates, and now here's what actually happened over those years. But we could, in theory, and we'll think about that, I can give you very specific known things that will change, like debt payments and things like that. I can give you that easily. Those things are not up for debate, because they are known. This bond will be paid off in 2026, But these other types of things, as this gets more sophisticated over time, I could see future folks wanting something like that, but we have to be very careful in how you hand it off to the next group of folks. Say, this is not as long as we're partners, as long as you're equity partners, this is just an estimate. Now, if we started looking at you as arm's length clients, then it would be, oh, hey, well, then we have we're going to commit to a price 3 years ahead of time. We're going to have to factor in some kind of risk premium on that. I don't think we do that.
But see, understand, if we get a big increase, and we haven't been able to include that in our budget,
Right.
then we have to cut back on many
Right. No, that's fair.
the community through us.
And so we understand that. So
And
the
if
same.
they start cutting down, then we can't, put the.
But the things that are real knowable, it's not real knowable what wages are going to be 3 years from now. But it is real knowable that if bonds are getting paid off, or once we enter into hey, we've committed and we're going to do this we're going to build this new structure, and we've gone to the market and borrowed the money, but the debt payment is not going to happen. The first debt payment doesn't happen for a year or two, because without getting into the details of that, sometimes once you lock in the deal, there's not a payment that shows up in the budget for a couple of years. Those types of things we can start bringing every year and saying, hey, here's your new number. And by the way, here are the things that we know that are going to happen over the next 3 years or 5 years. We could do that.
And I have been helpful, and well, we may be on something here. But, I thought the solution, the slight solution would be to come to your quarterly meetings, and, but then I don't get the information, or I need to find a better connection to that. Then I can get that while you're saying it's accounting.
Yeah.
I can come back and say, hey, did you know that
Those,
Bob Ken trucks
I
and
mean,
Bill Station?
trying to get this solved. Evelyn, the elected clerk is the one that does all those public notices, because those are public meetings, and so that's where you need to get on the list so that you can get invited. Yeah, that's what, yeah.
But I'm glad
We
you
have one coming up in May, we got a quarterly meeting in May. So that's I find out about it, and says we invite. So that's what you need to get connected there to be able to.
maybe I can call Evelyn
Yeah.
and say,
That's Evelyn.
give me what you know. They've got to have that.
Yeah, and that would be, that's the first responsibility to advertise all this.
So that's the kind of partnership I think we should have. And I know, I had a great time when I came over, I got to talk to everybody, and we just had, I thought that was a great meeting, and we tried to learn and figure this out.
You know, one of the things that they kind of done is we just, it was replaced for a fire after 20 years, and so we're going to take the council folks out and show them the fire. So it'll be a field trip.
Nice having you.
So what's next? I haven't been in here. Looks like it's newly remodeled.
So I have a cheap question. So you guys are going to evaluate the 26 contract and ask any questions. The underpayment for 25, do you want us to submit an invoice? How do you want me to?
That's not, it's not that. Do we normally submit, is this always submit?
This next go to the work,
Right.
and nope, because I said we were invoice you before, we just.
No, we probably still on the contract, but if you have,
Yeah.
I just thought this is a little
So we
different,
make
like,
it to the
And we thought that it would also help kind of encourage the whole notion of, like I said, it'd be better for all parties to actually pay as a separate single payment, so it doesn't get confusing. Because I've had that happen so many times where there's some adjustment, you look at a number on the page and you go, wait, the total is different than that, what happened?
We now can remember how and what, and that way we could put the minutes in my question. And then we could-
So I'll have my office manager just give you something up and ship it to you. That's the main things I'm trying to how you that.
and like I said, I have the emails, and I can just attach it all together. That way it will get audited, say where the accounts go back.
Yeah, the emails are very good, it's really.
Yeah, we have, we broke it down.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
So much, thank you.
That was very good.
Very good.
The seven.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if he ever cancels the breakfast,
This is the thing
call me.
that the fire chief.
And he said,
He's never paid.
Yeah, this is one.
Yeah.
It's like-
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
He's been great.
Yeah.
He's very good.
Yeah. That's because we're behind.
No, I just said we did.
Me too.
That's why.
Bye, guys. See ya.
Yeah.
You can stay, we have great good here.
And then, yes, we will go down, give me what it-
Oh, okay, this is sure, it's going to view.
I'm not really sure. I'm not.
He knows it. And that's what we share, the police and I have started to go back and forth.
Yes.
Do you read everything?
Oh, no, you know, I think I'm fine. I go to the gym every day, although I will say this, I am starting to, I said, I'm 66. And I feel like a huge dedication. Like 59, I go back and I'll tell you this, last year from 65 to 66, I'm really starting to go, hey, I'm starting, I know, but I'm really starting to feel my energy level's down, I'm gonna go to bed at 9 p.m. every night, super ridiculous. So, yeah.
All right, see you. If you have any questions.
Thanks for coming to see
Oh, yeah. Oh, what's our place? Maybe 6 months, 3 months, 4 months?
August is just a pending fire inspections and,
Those nasty fires.
I know.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, hopefully in July, August.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah,
What do you?
we need to go into the minutes and pay. Wait on Penny, and then we'll have to do minutes. We didn't do minutes.
Oh, we didn't do
Yeah, we went straight into the fire.
I don't see any.
To wait on him. Agenda. Yep. And I already told Peggy, the Nicholasville Chamber wanted us to participate in Taste of Chamber. Taste of Business, yes. So I'm gonna go out there with the table that we get free tickets. So if you guys are wanting to go, we're sending them in the mail. I can remind you if you want to get tickets.
Oh, they just put you together.
Yeah, we just have to have a table with information.
No, do that.
Yeah, that would be good.
I might go buy
Put that on the-
No, that's.
I might go get candy. Sometimes we go get candy. I was trying to think of something good. I don't know. I was just say, yeah. Trying to think of what else. Yeah.
Cookies are nice, and maybe a little thing to apply.
So you mean, you gotta spend no time, you want us to help, you take a break?
No, I mean, if you guys are out there and you want to, that's fine, or if you want to come and sit or whatever, that's fine too. I think it's what, for next, April 22nd, yeah. 4:30 to 7,
Yeah,
4 to 7.
I think it's 47. That may be my favorite for.
There, yeah, it's always well.
Okay, when?
April 22nd.
When from today?
It's gonna be out of the,
New place. I love
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's either 4:30 to 7:30 or
It's 7.
4 to
Because
7:30.
I have lunch,
Okay.
so,
Is what?
Yes,
I'm going early.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, we, talked about a minute and, so we got to approve, so.
Yeah,
Now
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
you're
That's
second.
just,
All in favor?
See, I thought you had made that motion.
That was good for the agenda.
We did that.
Yeah.
I know you did. Perfect.
Oh, wait, you guys sign.
Yeah, it's good.
You guys sign, yes. Not a lot to add. They're moving along.
Are you gonna stop already?
It's all, if you want to take a look, you can probably go over, it's completely done.
I was here yesterday, and they were
Yeah.
looking at it, like,
Oh, yeah, it's, we haven't, really haven't run into any issues, so, at least not that,
that's good.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. On TV.
Oh, it's all completely, yeah, walls, tile,
Yeah.
if it's over, we can take it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, but that's better than I think about it. You know.
yeah, well, what's funny is, so our original desk, you know, when we walked in, it kind of curved. And then right here, this curve was like a wall or a post.
Yeah.
Well, underneath that was a cement post. And we knew we couldn't get rid of it because it's buried and it's holding things together. But yesterday, one of the guys was like, look, the bottom of that post had been chipped away. So like the pole was big, but the bottom holding that post together was not listed. He's like, if that had gone in more, the thing would have been falling over, which is something you just gotta see. If
That's
it's- Yeah.
You don't realize how
Yeah.
bad it is. Not at all, I was surprised how much Campus or the.
So, yeah, over in Shauna, so between the buildings, with the gutters, that drain was never done properly. So instead of dumping clear out into the street, it basically dumped in that alley. And so that was going to Shauna's office and then what is that front office. And we knew it was in that front office, it's been doing that for years. But Ryan opened up those walls and so there was just mold all
You
over.
walk in, you can smell it.
Yeah.
And, that's not good. We gotta put that thing along.
Yeah, he was gonna try and correct, the proper way would be to see if the city would let us put it into the sidewalk and then it would come into the street. So I think he's gonna look into doing that, yeah. Tom did make a minor fix to it, which helped, but it didn't solve the problem.
Well, it's good to solve.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that was one thing, Shauna's office was a little more water damaged than the original. And mold, yeah, but it's not gonna, it's just we know it, so now we can correct it.
Yeah, correct.
It's not anything that has to be added into the cost or anything like that. And the post, that's, they'll fix that. Yeah, all the walls are down, ceilings down, all the things. So, I'm moving right on. Yeah. I don't know if you guys, so over at the law office, there is a conference room there. And it doesn't echo. So I don't know if it would be easier to hear if we move there for May. The only thing we would probably have to discuss in May would be if you have any more questions, for the fire chief.
Whatever you run,
Yeah, that's,
This is fun.
this is.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Okay. You might think of something. You might think of something like this time.
Oh, any more questions? It is a lot,
We
so.
expect her to have a question.
It's weird. I was gonna say, it is hard to hear in here, and, now the other potential is we could set up in just the shelter right here. Right now, our Wi-Fi is not strong enough over there, so we're trying to correct that, which is why I didn't wanna move, because I didn't know if the live stream would continue to keep going. But we are getting the Wi-Fi corrected over there, so it's just gonna take a little bit of time.
Well, you guys, just all right.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Wherever you guys want to go and find here.
It's pretty nice in there. They have a nice chair.
Oh, that's sounding better on that.
Yeah.
It's a little smaller over there, but Shauna and Macy, for this hour, they could come over here,
Yeah.
if we have that schedule.
All right.
But, okay.
You don't have to make a motion. Just stay here.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
And it is 4 to 7.
4 to 7:30 for Jason business, okay.
That's a good presentation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good,
Yeah. Have you been?
Jason business, have you
Have you
been?
been? Whatever.
Yeah, to the, to the Jason business.
You don't have to eat dinner. You just go and all kinds of stuff, all kinds of restaurants. Yeah.
Is it?
Chick-fil-A was there last year, just a different.
I hear motion adjourned.
I made a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? knew that